Hi, this is Shruti N, Assistant Professor from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Maharaja Institute of Technology, Mysore. Welcome to C Programming Laboratory video lecture and enjoy the session. If you are interested in career in computer programming, it would be wise to start by learning C programming language. The most important benefits of learning C language are as follows. First point, C is a basic language of all advanced computer languages. For example, if you want to learn C++, which is an object-oriented language, you need to know C language well beforehand. Once you master in C, you can easily learn another specified languages. Second point, C programming language is recognized worldwide and used in multitude of applications including advanced scientific systems and operating systems too. Third point, it's very flexible and versatile, allowing maximum control with minimum commands. So C is most needed programming language for beginners. Let's move on to the first laboratory program, that is familiarization with computer hardware and programming environment, concept of naming the program files, storing compilation, execution and debugging by taking any simple C code. It's having two parts. The first part is about to know the computer hardware and another is to get familiarized with the computer environment. Yes. To get familiarized with the computer hardware, let's first see the definition of computer. Computer is an electronic device that accepts data as input, processes data using programs and outputs the processed data as information. Your computer will receive the data from the user as the input and it will process it according to the instructions given by the user and it will produce the output as information. The next is basic hardware components of computer. Computer hardware refers to the physical parts of the computer and related devices. This computer hardware has two types, that is external hardware and internal hardware devices. External hardware devices are usually called as peripherals. It includes mouse, monitors, keyboard, CPU, speakers, modem, printers and scanners, etc. Next, internal hardware parts of the computer are often referred to as components. It includes motherboards, hard drives, memory, etc. Let's see one by one in detail, and this is the look of the computer hardware. Yes, let's take the first computer hardware, which is called as mouse. A mouse is a handle pointing input device that controls the cursor in a graphical user interface and can move and select text, icons, files and folders. Working with the mouse can speed up your work manifold. Your mouse will have two buttons and one wheel. The leftmost button will be used to click to move the pointer to any position on the screen and rightmost button to click to bring up the other menus, and wheel between the two buttons will be used to scroll the pages up and down. Next is a keyboard. Keyboard is a input device which is used to enter the characters and functions into the computer system by pressing keys or buttons. A keyboard typically contains keys for individual letters, numbers and special characters as well as keys for the specific functions. Earlierly, the keyboard will be with the 84 keys, but latest there are 104 keys available on the keyboard. However, every companies or manufacturers made the keyboards with different keys numbering, and this is the layout of the keyboard, and the keyboard layout mainly contains 5 parts. These parts include alphanumerical keypads, numerical keypad, arrow keys, control keys and function keys. Function keys means the function keys in the line at the top from F1 to F12. It is used for the specific purpose based on the program that you are running at that point of time. Next is control keys. control keys are the insert key, home, page up keys, and they're opposite on the upper right of the keyboard, and these keys are all used to control the events. Next is the numerical keypad. A numerical keypad is also called as number pad or numpad or 10 keys and is used the palm sized 17 key sections of the standard computer keyboard, usually on the far right. It provides calculator style efficiency for entering the numbers. Next one is the alphanumerical keypad, that is typewriter keys like letters and numbers. And the last one is the arrow keys, or it's also called as movement keys, that is the up, down, left, right navigation arrow keys on the lower part of the keyboard. So these are all used to move the pages on the screen. So this is the layout of the keyboard. Next is about the monitor. Monitor is an output device that displays the information in pictorial form. A monitor usually comprises the visual display, circuitry casing and power supply. Older monitors used a cathode ray tube, but today best screens are LCD monitors that use LED technology for slim product and saves the energy while providing the ideal backlight. Yes, monitor, it displays the pictures and images in real time, allowing one to interact with the computer activity and running its program at will. There are two primary types of monitors, as I have already told, each with their own advantages over the other. A cathode ray tube monitor, which is also called as CRT, it's a cheaper, more durable and able to withstand being damaged and remain functional and has better gradation between the colors. A liquid, whereas liquid crystal display monitor, or also called as LCD, is the lighter and more compact, requires less electricity to power and tends to have better resolution. Next one is about the memory. Computer memory is a physical device capable of storing information temporarily like RAM or permanently like ROM. And memory devices utilize integrated circuits and are used by operating system, software and hardware. Computer memory is the faculty of the brain by which the data or information is encoded, stored and retrieved when needed. It is the retention of information over the time for the purpose of influencing future action. And this computer memory has two, that is RAM and ROM, and these two has its own advantage, that is RAM is a primary storage, temporary storage, whereas ROM is the permanent storage. And RAM is also volatile memory and ROM is called as non-volatile memory. That is because when the power is off, the data in the RAM will be flashed, but whereas the data in the ROM will be stored permanently. Data stored in the RAM will be in megabytes, but in the ROM it will be in gigabytes, so that we can store more data in ROM. And this RAM memory is used to store normal operations data, whereas the ROM memory is used to store the startup process of computer, that is operating systems and all. Next, writing the data is faster in RAM when compared to the ROM. So writing the data in ROM is a bit slower when compared to the RAM. And below diagram is a look of the RAM and ROM. The next one is CPU. CPU stands for Central Processing Unit, and this is called as the brain of the computer that processes the instruction. It runs the operating system and applications constantly, receiving the input from the user or active software programs. It processes the data and produces the output, which may be stored by an application or displayed on the screen. It controls the operation of all the parts of the computer. Next, CPU itself has the following three components, that is ALU, that is called as Arithmetical Logical Unit, Memory Unit and Control Unit. Arithmetical logical unit is the major operation performed by the ALU or the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, logic and comparison. Yes, whatever the mathematical operations that we expect from the computer will be carried out in this ALU, that is arithmetical logical unit. Next, memory unit. As I have already explained, memory unit is used to store the data and instructions based on the needed. The data will be stored in RAM or ROM. The next one is the control unit, which is a very essential one, that is the process of input output processing and storage is performed under the supervision of this control unit. It decides when to start receiving the data, when to stop it, where to store the data, etc. It takes care of step-by-step processing of all the operations inside the computer. Next, this is a CPU cabinet. CPU cabinets are fitted with doors and side panels which may or may not be removable. Cabinets enclosed a rack, which is a frame that provides a means of mounting electronic equipments. Cabinets come in variety of styles, colors and many cabinets, buffers, fans and other features. First figure is an CPU front view and the middle one is the internal view of the CPU and the last one is the back view of the CPU. And here you can find some of the ports in the CPU, and the first one is called as a serial port that is used for external modems and older computers mouse to connect, and parallel port is used for scanners and printers to get connect, also called as printer ports. PS2 port, which is used for the older computer keyboards and mouse to get connect, also called as mouse port, and most of the old computer provides two PS2 port each for mouse and keyboard, and universal serial bus, that is USB port. That USB port, it is used to connect all kinds of external USB devices such as external hard disk, printer, scanner, mouse, keyboard, pen drives, etc. And there is a VGA port that is used to connect monitors to the keyboard, computers, video cards. It has 15 volts similar to the serial port connector. However, the serial port connector has pins but VGA ports has holes. Next, you can observe the power in, that is power connector. It is a 3-prong plug. It connects to the computer power cable that plugs into the power bar or wall socket. Next, there is a modem port that is used to connect PCs to modem to the telephone network, and there is a LAN port, and that LAN port is used to connect to the network and high speed internet, connects through the network cable to the computer, and DVI port, that is digital video interface port, which connects to the flat panel LCD monitors to the computer's high end video graphic cards, very popular among video card manufacturers. And sockets connects the microphone and speakers to sound cards of the computer. So this is about the CPU cabinet. Next, the motherboard, which we have seen inside the CPU. Yes, motherboard is one of the most essential part of the computer system. It holds together many of the crucial components of the computer, including the central processing unit, memory unit and connectors for input and output devices. Central processing unit and memory unit is already explained in previous slides. Next, coming to the other parts of the motherboard, important part, that is BIOS. BIOS stands for Basic Input Output System, and it's a read-only memory which consists of low-level software that controls the system hardware and acts as an interface between the operating system and the hardware. Motherboard also includes a small separate block of memory made for CMOS RAM chips, which are kept alive by the battery, that is known as CMOS battery. Even when the PC is power off, that is personal computer is power off, this prevents the configuration when the PC is powered on. CMOS device requires very little power to operate. So this is about the motherboard, and the next one is hard disk. Yeah, hard disk is a primary computer storage device and it is used to store the files on the computers. The hard disk is a spindle of magnetic disk called platters and record and store the information which is entered by the user. Because the data is stored magnetically, information recorded to the hard disk remains intact after you turn off your computer off. It is probably the most important component of the computer. Without it, your computer would never be able to save any files. You would not be able to boot up your system, your operating system, and could never play a game or download a file without the hard disk. And here you can view the hard disk. First figure is the external hard disk, so that you can connect externally to store the information, and this is the inside the hard disk. It will be having a spindle head for the read or write operations, power supply for the hard disk, and there will be a data bus where the data will transfer through that bus, and platters, magnetic details where the data is stored. So this is about the hard disk. The next one is about the speakers. Yes, it's known to all. Speaker or popularly an output device used with the computer system. They receive audio input from computer's sound card and produces audio output in the form of sound waves, that what we will listen. And speakers usually come in pairs, which allow them to produce stereo sound from two separate audio channels. Next is a modem. Yeah, modem is a short for modulator, G-modulator. It's a hardware component that allows the computer or other devices such as routers or switch to connect to the internet. It converts digital data from the computer or other devices into the analog signals that can be sent through this. Next, last one, that is about the power supply. Power supply unit, or also called as PSU, is the component that supplies the power to the computer. Personal computers can be plugged into standard electrical outlets. The power supply then pulls the required amount of electricity and converts the AC current to the DC current. Modern personal computers universally use switched mode power supplies, that is called as SMPS. And why this SMPS is used is because it provides improved efficiency and space saving over the traditional linear supplies, and it is widely used because of the advantages they offer in terms of size, weight, cost, efficiency, and overall performance. So SMPS power supply is used in today's computers. Next, so this completes the familiarization with the computer hardware. Next part of the question is to get familiarized with the programming environment. Yes, once you know the computer hardware, let's learn how to use those things and how to write a C program and what's the environment is required to execute a C program. Yeah, C program can be compiled and executed even in Linux and Windows operating systems. A list of C compilers available to compile the C program in Windows or Visual C++ 2008 Express Edition, Turbo C++, VxDev C++, etc. These compilers can be used in Windows operating system to execute C program, but whereas in Linux and Unix operating system use GNU GCC to compile C program. In our laboratory, we use Linux operating system. So let's take a detailed discussion of how to execute what's a programming setup to run a C program in Linux using GCC compiler. So steps to compile and run the C program and Linux using GCC compiler are as follows. That is, first you have to open up a terminal, next use a text editor to create the C source code, next compile the C program and execute the C program. So let us see what's this text editor. Yeah, text editor can be used for writing the code, editing the text files such as configuration files, creating user instruction files, that is ERC program files, and many more. For this purpose, text editors are used to write up programs. By using text editor, you can write any programs. In Linux, text editors are two kinds, that is graphical user interface and command line text editors. But we use command line text editor which is called as Pluma. Pluma is a fork of gedit2 and the default text editor of the desktop environment used in Linux distribution. Next, the compiler. Yes, what's a compiler? A compiler is a special program that processes the statements written in a high level language and turns them into the low level language called binary language. Of course, we will write the program in high level language, that is C language, which includes your English, okay, but the computer cannot understand this English, so this program language has to be get converted into computer understandable format, that is binary language format. So to do this, compilers are needed. So this compiler is a software or it's a program which will take the high level language program as input and it will convert the high level language program into low level language, that is binary language program, so your computer can understand what you have written. To compile and run the C program on Linux, the GCC compiler will be used, as I have already said. Command which is used to compile the C program in Linux operating system is CC. It stands for C compiler, usually an alias command to GCC or CLang. You can even use GCC or CLang. It is used to compile C language codes and creates the executables. So once you compile your file, it will create an executable file called as a.out file, where the program will be there in the binary format. Next, how to compile and run a C program in Linux and how to name a programming file, C programming file. First, you have to open up a terminal by searching the terminal and click on that icon. There you can use the Pluma editor. We will be using a Pluma editor. So the command will be Pluma followed by the file name that you want to create to write up your C program. The file name should be the name which is relevant to the content what you will be going to write inside that program, and it should be a single word, and next it should end with the .c extension. Why? The .c extension that indicates that you are writing the C program. Yes, so the command that you want to type is Pluma example.c. So if you type this command and press enter, an editor will be opened to type your program. C source code. Here I have written a simple C source code, that is #include stdio.h void main printf welcome to MIT Mysore. Yes, it is a bit earlier to explain in detail the each line by line of the program, but I'll explain in whole, that is this program will print only a welcome message, that is welcome to MIT Mysore. #include stdio.h stands for including the stdio.h header file to our file, and main is the function which should be there in every C program, where the program execution starts, and printf, this printf function will print the message what we have written inside that as it is on your as a output. Next, after writing this program, you have to save this code and close the editor window. Once you close the editor window, next again you will be back to the terminal, where you have to type a command called cc space example.c. Here the program what I have written in high level language, that is C language, will be get converted into low language, that is CC stands for I am telling the compiler to compile my program, and the name of the file that which program has to be get compiled, that is example.c. Okay, this command will invoke the C compiler to compile the file example.c and output the result to an executable file called a.out. By default, every compiled file output will be stored in the a.out file. Next, to run the file program, you have to type a command dot /a dot out. This will result in the output the welcome to MIT Mysore in your output screen. So this is how we have to run a C program by setting up of an environment. This will be carried out in our laboratory, but today you are in your at home and most of you will not have the Linux operating system. So just execute the C program online. Just I'll explain how to execute the C program online. Go to the Google Chrome, open a google.com and execute the online C program file. Type execute online C program file. You will find the online editor online GDB. So click on that online GDB. Next there you will find an editor to type your program, where I have shown in the arrow. There you have to type your program, whatever the program that you want to execute, and next just run the program that you will find at the menu at the top of the editor. Just click on that run button. You will find you can enter the inputs if you need it to your program and view the output at the bottom of the window. This is how you can run the program in online free by using the online GDB. Thank you.